probably as loud as it'll peak.
This is hopefully the first of many chats that I would like to have with like other banjo players. Now I've seen you around on Reddit quite a bit, and I've seen your YouTube, and actually I have a few students who have seen you as well on Reddit.
No kidding.
Yeah, the ones who haven't seen you, I tend to show you as show you playing as well, because it's like a perfect example of like unorthodox style and how it can work. I mean, I personally think that's kind of one of the beautiful things about Clawhammer, that you can. I mean, it's true with any instrument really, in any style when it actually comes to it. You can just do whatever the hell you want. There's actually, people forget this. It's like there's no rules actually. You can do whatever you want. But the point is, no matter what style you pick, you kind of have to choose. You have to work at it right. That's really the point, and you have to kind of be consistent at it. Because I think, if I remember rightly, I've seen your videos for quite a while on Reddit, and you started off with you just trying things out. Is this
Yeah.
The first few videos are you're giving like things a go, and then over time you've developed the style that you basically just demonstrated there, which is Clawhammer plus, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Cool. So that's a bit of a vague intro for people, but let's just say hi. I know you as Reddit user Atillion. I presume that's not your real name. Could you just briefly introduce yourself? Who are you? Who are you actually? I mean, you don't have to dox yourself, but who is Atillion?
My name is Lee, and I go by Atillion online. It's a username I came up with in the early 90s. I was playing Diablo 2 on the Windows 95 PC, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a cool adventurer name. So I came up with it then, and it just kind of followed me all the way through like America Online and World of Warcraft in the 2000s, and then when I jumped on Reddit, I thought, yeah, I'll just use it as well. So it's very uniquely me, and it just came out of thin air. So it's kind of nice to have something that will point to me if you Google it.
Yeah.
I started playing banjo I think I'm working on my third year now, about 3 years ago. I've always been pretty good at a lot of instruments, but I decided about 3 years ago I wanted to just try to be the best I could be at one of them. So I thought about doing guitar. I played guitar for 25 years at the time, and I thought it would be kind of hard to really rise above in a sea of guitarists, especially my local music scene. So I grabbed the banjo, which I've always wanted to play. And my only regret about it is that I didn't start sooner, because it's been the most fun instrument I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I wish I could find the original Clawhammer videos that I started on. I got through maybe the third video in a beginner series, and then I just realized I could take off on my own. And like you said, that's kind of what I've done. I started in minor tuning, which is not very orthodox. Well, I have my G minor banjo because I do tune down to F. It's all the same fingering. It's just 2 half tones lower because I have a hard time singing with my G banjo. Yeah. And it alienates a lot of banjo players. So I keep my gold tone here tuned up to G, at least so people can just drop one string to get down to G minor with me. Yeah. But it's my native tuning, and I don't even know the chord names for all the shapes. I kind of just felt my way through it. But if I do go up to G standard, like I know where C and D and E minor and A minor and all the easy chords are. But minor has really been like where I really learned how to play the banjo.
Cool. That is cool. So, I mean, can you just demonstrate something else playing again, just so we can see it? Because when I see you play, I'm sometimes reminded of when I first started playing the banjo and I first saw someone play Clawhammer, and I was just like, what the fuck are they doing, right? And sometimes when I see you play, I'm just like, wait, I thought I understood what the hell was going on with Clawhammer banjo, and suddenly I don't feel like I do anymore. So can you just play anything again, and then just briefly talk about like what your style is and how you kind of came across it?
Sure,
is that right?
Sure. So when I first started learning Clawhammer, I learned the bum diddy stroke, and I learned to downstroke on the bum, and then you come around and you downstroke on the dit, and then you play the T off your thumb. So it's bum diddy bum diddy bum diddy bum. At some point, I just realized you can upstroke on the bum, and this is what sets me apart. the bum now is an upstroke. The dit is still downstroked, and the T is also downstroked. And what this does for me is it creates this efficiency, much like alternate picking in the guitar world. When you first start playing guitar, you downstroke all your notes, but eventually you learn to just go back and forth and make that flow. So the upstroke puts me in the position to go back down immediately and hit my T. So anything that I can play downstroking, I can also play upstroking. So this is a little instrumental that I wrote. I'll show you a downstroked version of it. So all those were downstroked, and here's the upstroke. It sounds exactly the same. Difference is when you get to higher speeds, you gain the efficiency of going back and forth rather than coming all the way around to downstroke, all the way around to downstroke. And then you can get like some super quick.
That is the one thing I would disagree with, though. I don't think it doesn't sound exactly the same. I think it does sound different because there's an inherent like change to like the groove of it when you go up and then back down. That's the main thing I notice is that, I mean, everyone hits the instrument differently, right? And I think I have quite a like soft style, which is I don't think is ideal actually for it, and I always try to hit it a bit harder, and I always encourage my students to like just hit the thing harder, right? And I think your style is even more just like you're beating the crap out of the thing. And I think that it's such an important part actually of like playing Clawhammer banjo, which I always still try to work on. And I think it's even more accentuated by you doing it the way you do. Like there's a hell of a groove to it, which I mean a lot of like it's standard, right, to have a groove with Clawhammer banjo. But your groove is your groove, right? And it is like a result of the way you up and then down and then up and down and loads of hammer-ons, which again is pretty standard with Clawhammer, right? But it just changes the dynamic completely when I see you play. So how did you? I mean, you've just said you kind of logically came around to it by thinking like it's kind of like up and down and it's about efficiency. But what's like your musical background in terms of like the music you like? Are you coming at it from like an old-timey point of view? Because I mean, I'll just cut in and saying, I mean, I play Clawhammer banjo, but I never really came to it from an old-timey kind of perspective. I really liked like folk music, like British or Irish folk music, and then I was just like, well, you either play three-fingered or you play Clawhammer, and I did a bit of both for a while until I just stuck with Clawhammer. But it was just almost like chance. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know how it happened. I think I just saw a banjo in a shop when I was a teenager, and I was just like, I'll just buy that because I like some folk music. So that's kind of how I came to it. Like, how about for you? I mean, I gather from what I've seen on Reddit, you're into quite a lot of metal, but that doesn't preclude you from liking load of old-timey music. So yeah, sorry, that's my ramble. But yeah, what kind of music taste are you coming to it with?
Of course. Well, I grew up in the mountains of western North Carolina, in the Appalachians, just the heart of the Smoky Mountains. And we would go to church, and they would have all these musicians come over. They called it a singin'. We're going to go to a singin' tonight. And all these musicians would just come in and play all this gospel music. And I remember around the time I was 11 years old, I had my musical awakening. I just started hammering things out on a keyboard, and my mom bought me my next instrument. Then I dug her guitar out of the closet, and this was just a lifelong journey of just my love for music. But when I saw those banjo players come in to those sing-ins, I didn't know any banjo players, so that was really my only exposure to them, and it was always just mind-boggling, the sounds that they were making versus what I saw their hands doing. And that, I think right there, planted the seed in my mind. that I wanted to play a banjo one day because I want to be able to create that effect in people where they think, "My goodness, what are you doing?" So one of my favorite compliments that anybody ever gives me is when they say, "It sounds like there's two banjos. Where's your other banjo?" And I'm like, "Ah, gotcha. I did it." Or if they say, like, what is your right hand doing? Because I just can't tell. So I moved out of the Appalachians maybe 20 years ago, and I only just started playing the banjo a few years ago. So I didn't really, like, the seed was planted back in the South, but I grew up, listening to a lot of metal, and I was kind of a rebel. My mom was a really controlling police officer, so it was like I just wanted to stick it to the man every chance I could. So metal music was really what I've listened to my whole life, but I love the instrument. So they're bound to intersect in some way, because music is music. You can take even the harshest death metal music and break it down to its musical components and rewrite it on another instrument. That's one of my favorite things to do. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure I've seen you do some like heavy metal stuff on the banjo, and I think it's 100% true. So, I mean, obviously it has its stereotypical like genres, but I mean, I think like a bit of a sidetrack, but I definitely notice more and more now, more and more people coming to like Clawhammer. Like historically, Clawhammer was like so sidelined, and it really was just like an old timey thing. And then like through the 70s and 80s, you had like a few people playing like Anglo or Irish like folk tunes on it a bit, and then it kind of expanded from there. And there is a bit of like a progressive like Clawhammer scene, obviously. But more and more now, I mean, I'm like, sometimes I find it remarkable. Sometimes like the students who are coming to me wanting to learn Clawhammer, it's like there's so many. When I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, it'll all be like." I know, obviously, banjo scene in the UK is very different from America, right? Because it's not really like a traditional British instrument. But everyone assumes it's going to be like older people, like retirees who kind of are into country music. And in my experience, it tends to be there's some of that obviously, but like young kind of punks as well.
Oh
There's,
yeah,
like, loads of people like that, and it's such like clearly like a punk instrument now. But it does feel like it, in some ways, it's like a few decades behind like Three Finger in terms of expanding into like all kinds of genres, but it's definitely clearly going to get there. But do you write any original music as well? Then I'm not sure if I've seen anything on Reddit. If you do,
most of my instrumentals are all original, I'm working on recording my first album right now with about 10 tracks, 3 of which are instrumentals. There's a couple covers. Like I cannot escape this system of a down cover that I do. Like everywhere I go, people around town. I just played a show last night that I closed with it, and it's always just so fun when it clicks to the crowd exactly what I'm playing. At first, they don't see it, but then it doesn't take long before they realize it's a metal song, and it just erupts. So there's a couple big covers that I'm working on, but my original music is, this was one of the real first attempts I've taken at being a singer-songwriter as well, trying to get like craft these songs, and so far they've turned out really well. A really good response when I play more intimate shows where the crowd is there to actually listen, and I'm not just a glorified jukebox in the corner of a bar. I've had some people come up and say, "I like your originals more than your covers." So
that's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Hoping to get those out.
Yeah. So when let's talk about songwriting briefly, because I like to write songs. I'm not sure if I call myself a songwriter, but it is hard. It's very hard, right? So have you always written songs? Like when you've been playing other instruments, like historically, have you always like sat down and do you write when you talked about your instrumentals, which are original, but you write lyrics as well? I mean, how do you find the whole experience? Have you done it a lot historically in the past? And what part of it do you find kind of most challenging? I guess I'm quite curious.
Yeah, I tried writing songs in my youth with guitar, but they were too me. They were too, like, you have to know me to know that the song means anything. So I always struggled writing a song that could be relatable by other people. So I never really wrote many songs. I always thought they were really cheesy, especially when I go back and listen to a few that I've written. In the last 3 years since I've started the banjo, I also took it upon myself to try and write from not just my experience, but to phrase it and word it in a way that it could be applied to everybody. And that in itself is its own art. Mm-hmm. And I've taken a chance to give that a try and have had really good results. Even writing my very first fictitious music, where I'm telling a story as if it is my own story, but it's not really my story. Mm-hmm. I have a murder ballad that I wrote. It's based on a childhood friend who had an abusive boyfriend, and suddenly he turns up missing, and it's all about, it's implied that maybe she dumped his body in the local river. Mm-hmm. And,
wow.
It's the first song that I really worked at storytelling, so I'm quite proud of that one as well.
That's cool. That's cool. And you got a few banjos. Is that what you said? What's that banjo? Do you say that was a gold tone?
This was my first one. It's a gold tone CC50, I believe. Got it. Yeah. I got it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and never really sat down and really attempted it until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how hard it was to keep it in tune.
Yeah.
Especially playing open mics.
Mm-hmm.
It would be sitting in the car where it would be cold. And the banjo is the first instrument I've ever found that will go out of tune sharp. And I've realized it's the flex in the head. When it gets cold, it gets tighter and more rigid, and it stretches the strings harder. And then I'll take my cold banjo out of the car and put it next to my warm body, and within minutes it'll start to relax and loosen, and then everything would go out of tune. I used to think it was all in the tuners, but it's really all in about temperature control. So now I get to the open mics early. I bring my banjo inside. I open the case. I let it acclimate as much as I can. When I know I'm going to be up, I'll sit and hold it so it'll get within my body. It's a very temperamental instrument.
It is. It's so funny. I always have a student who I have all my students. They'll turn up and they'll be like, you know what? I'm sorry, I didn't realize I'm out of tune again. It's I just tuned it before I set off, and it's don't apologize. These instruments just do it all the time. There's jokes about it. It just happens. They're an absolute pain in the ass, and we love them in spite of it, obviously. But have you got a few banjos then? And sorry, the question I was going to ask before: are you a fussy person when it comes to your instruments? Because some people really are. They have very specific setups and strings they like, or are you just a pick up and play type of guy?
I'll pick up and play, but I have learned to be a little fussy. When I had trouble tuning it, I thought, I'll just get a better banjo. So I upgraded to a Deering Good Time Americana. Mm-hmm. And I liked it okay, but the strings on it, they only recommend that you go up to a medium gauge. And the way I play, which is too fast, too hard, and too loud, the strings feel really, really flimsy. So I sat down and I did the math on the tension of the strings with a certain gauge tuned to a certain tuning, and I thought to myself, well, I down-tuned to F, so I'm relaxing the tension on the strings. Maybe I can go up to a heavier gauge. So I got on a website where you can buy individual strings, and I gauged out my own custom heavy set, where I think my smallest gauge is a 12, whereas the heaviest you can buy is a 10 or an 11.
Yeah.
And I play heavier strings on my F minor banjo. But when I come back to this banjo and play it with the medium gauge strings tuned to G, I don't know. I just love the way this banjo feels compared to the Deering Good Time. I was really let down by that banjo. All the hype behind it was oh, it's going to be a great banjo for I think it was around $700. And it's just been disappointing. And lo and behold, has the same tuning problems.
Right. So, yeah. Well, instruments are the weirdest thing. You can pick up. I do think there is a return on investment to a point, but then even within that, it's so subjective. If I go to the local music shop, I can play one banjo for £1,000, and it'll be amazing. and I'll play another for £2,000, and it's just really disappointing and a bit crap.
Okay.
But yeah, when I'm always thinking like when I'm teaching people, when people start off, they have no idea what they're doing, obviously, so they'll just buy any old thing, and then they always get it in their head that like they need this or they need that. And I always encourage people to like, you need to just try like all these instruments. And I encourage like what you said there, where you are a bit fussy. You learn how to be a bit fussy, and I personally think you have to be a bit fussy because everyone like is a bit different and they have their own style. So I'm a bit fussy about certain things, and other things I don't really care about. I have a good time myself. That's just kind of my cheaper beat 'em up. I think it's perfectly fine for what it is. I didn't pay like $700, so it was a bit cheaper. So I'm not quite as bitter about it, but it is what it is. I think it's perfectly fine. I got another Deering like long neck, and I think that's a great instrument. That's very nice. I think the problem with the long neck banjo is all of them have the fret markings in the wrong place, as far as I'm concerned. It's if you've ever seen them, the fret markings don't make any sense. They've put the fret markings on. Sorry, this is not relevant to our conversation here, but I just like to whinge about it whenever I get the opportunity. They put the fret markings on all long neck banjos are like this. They put the fret markings on according to as if you had like a capo on third all the time. So they haven't put the double dot on the 12th fret. They put the double dot where the 12th fret would be if you were capoed on third. So it really annoys me. I think it's really stupid, and it's not just a Deering long neck thing. It's all long neck banjos do that because most people do capo at third, so they just do that. I think it's really annoying. It's real pain. But yeah, cool. I was going to ask something else then. I totally forgot. But yeah, so you have your album coming out. When can we look forward to that, and where can we find it when it does come out?
I'm not sure yet. I got the first 2 songs tracked with the banjo. I'm kind of thinking, some people say you should just release singles because everything is an algorithmic endeavor these days. So you put one song into the algorithm, you let it peak, you let it die. You put the next song, you peak, die. They say if you record a whole album, it's going to take 9 months to get it all finished, and then the internet's going to forget about you in a week. So I'm kind of torn because I want to have the album, I'm choosing the first track and the last track and every track in between as a cohesive way to tell the story, and I don't know if I'm really willing to lose that to chase the algorithm one song at a time. So I'm not entirely sure how I want to pursue it. I'm kind of learning as I go. I tracked my banjo out, and then I'm just now learning to program bass through MIDI and using VSTs. I found this really cool stand-up bass VST that I'm about to sink some money into. And when I listen to it in my car, which is that's the studio headphones that I measure everything. When I hear it in my car, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
So I'm a little torn on how I want to do that. I'm afraid if I program all the bass, it's going to sound exactly the same across all the songs. So I don't know if I need to like pursue a studio bassist to kind of join me. I've been wanting to have a bass player behind me for busking and live shows because I think if somebody's filling in the 1s and the 3s and I'm hitting the 2s and the 4s, they're bringing in the low end and I have the high end. It's almost like a duo could really do well in my town. I just haven't found the right bassist. I don't really want to write music with other people. I want somebody to learn my stuff and play behind me and just share in all the money that we make. So it's kind of hard to find somebody that wants to just play the studio musician role or the backup band role. So
that kind of thing is complicated, and chasing algorithms is I don't think anyone really understands how it works. It's just what you as you said, you hear conflicting advice all the time. I mean, I'm on YouTube a bit, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not convinced anyone really does. It just feels like you're just shooting into the dark, really. And do you think you'll release that under the name Atillion, or how will that work? That's your kind of official name for everything.
I like to browse the dark artwork subreddit, And I found this
yeah.
person who just made the most amazing art that I messaged them and was like, hey, I'm going to have an album out sometime this year and I want to use your art as the cover. How much do you want for it? And it's kind of cool because they were just over the moon excited, thinking, wow, somebody wants to use my art. So there's really cool intimate ways that you can connect with other artists to get what you want and make a nice finished product. And you would almost think that the album is going to be a death metal album if you were just judging it by its cover. But then you're going to open it up and find a guy with banjo and a stand-up bass. I'm a little bit worried that maybe that might create some dissonance in the listener's expectations. But it's me, so
I was gonna
package
say
it. I'm not gonna water it down, you know.
It's
I think I'll be proud of it.
It is genuinely a very hard game to play, isn't it? Because you have to think commercially or whatever to some degree, but at the same time, why not just do it properly the way you want to do it? But that is honestly really exciting. It's really cool that it's really cool that you're doing something that does have, in many ways, like a kind of metal aesthetic, but at the same time, it's just a guy beating the crap out of a banjo, right? That's really cool. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Could I ask you to just play us out one last time? Just anything you want to play.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of
kind
metal,
of wrap up there.
I brought sweep arpeggios over from the metal world onto the banjo.
I did see that video a while ago.
They haven't quite taken off like I want them to, but I was playing a show one time and I was ending with my arpeggios, and these two metalheads were sitting in the front. I didn't know that they were metalheads until they got up after me and they played an acoustic cover of an All That Remains song that was just amazing. But I was watching them as I was playing, and I saw one guy say, he's playing sweep arpeggios. I was like, yes, that's awesome, because I haven't really seen anybody doing it. So I sat down meticulously for months working on getting my right hand to sweep evenly across the strings in one direction and then come back in the other direction, and you get kind of a...
Yes, yeah.
And then I cut each one of them off with a hammer on and a pull off. And people just go nuts for it. I got that straight from the metal world.
But it is incredibly cool. That's why they go nuts for it. But also, for anyone who's watching, because I saw that video when you first put that out on Reddit, and I gave it a go. The hard bit is, in my experience, coming back up again. Going down it's tricky, especially with the hammer-ons. Once you're trying to get the hammer-ons incorporated and you're trying to do that smooth movement, that's tricky in itself, but it's doable. Coming back up, I was just like, it's not happening for me. I mean, obviously, sorry, that's a bad message to put out there for anyone who's learning an instrument. Anyone can do it, right? And I'm not saying that to put you down or anything either, but it just takes practice, and that's kind of the point, right? Whatever you're going to do, if it's unorthodox or if it's weird, it just takes practice. It takes way more practice than you think it takes as well. So that's really important. But I was just like, to be able to duplicate what he's doing, I'm going to have to sit there for ages, and it just my brain, because I'm doing Clawhammer and I don't do an uppluck at all. I was just like, it's just not working with my brain. I'd have to like do too much rewiring in order to do this. And I was just like, I'll just leave it to the guy who can already do it really well. So yeah, could you just play us out with anything and another little demonstration of your really cool style?
I'll just play a verse and chorus of that exact song, and it's called
that'd be perfect.
A Slow Suicide. Again, it's hard to put words like that in songs these days, but that it'll be the second track on my album. So
nice, very nice. And honestly, that was a great demonstration of something else as well that I think I can only assume you partly got from metal, and I kind of bring it to banjo as well, which is it's not like an overtly theatrical thing that you're playing there, but there's like a theater from the dynamism of like, you know, you go loud and then we're getting like quite a few notes and we're getting this kind, and then you really bring it down, which I'm not saying Clawhammer players don't do that anyway, but you're really doing it like in a kind of more in your face way there, that we're getting like the volume, and then you're going a lot quieter and you're getting a bit, you know, slower as well. And I think that kind of, I don't know, some people might take it as a kind of a pejorative thing to say, but like there is a theatrical bit to that, which to my ear is a little bit more comes from that metal kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe you disagree. I don't know. That's how I kind of hear it when I hear you playing it.
I'm glad you bring it up, because I've been accused of having no tone, no control. I just go all gas, no brakes. So that's something I've really, really been working on, trying to dial back, you know, when I'm hammering the strings, to maybe not hammer them so hard and focus on just the notes that I want to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's been something I've really put a lot of focus into doing, because people are right. I do tend to go all or nothing, and there is a time to try and, you know, get your melodies to really shine through. So
100%, yeah. No, I totally see it there. But also, I will say, there's always someone will. I know for a fact you've seen this from comments. There's always a critic, always someone, and there's always someone who's really obnoxious and rude about it, and it's just unbelievable. Do you know that there's a British Clawhammer player called Dan Walsh? Have you seen him around on YouTube or anything like that? I mean, the guy that he's technically proficient on like an unbelievable level. Like the guy's just an absolute beast at Clawhammer. He's or someone like Victor Furtado. Have you seen his playing? He's an American guy though, quite young. These guys are the really super technical proficient ones who are like absolute shredders at Clawhammer. But even those people are out there, and there's always someone just being like too many notes or something. Like, it's just like unreal comments from these people who, you don't have to like someone's playing, but to just be rude. And I just find it remarkable that people forget there is someone on the other end, and it's a bit cheesy to say, but someone like you, who's clearly put a load of effort into it and is clearly playing well. If someone doesn't like your style, that's perfectly fine, but why be a dick about it? That's what I never understood. I just totally don't get that. Anyway,
that song, A Slow Suicide, was written in direct response to a hater. He just said the most awful thing that really got through. Like, I've got pretty good armor and thick skin, but man, he just made his way through, and I got one of my best songs out of it. So I like to turn the hate back around to where now every time I play this song and the crowd cheers, I just it's the biggest way to turn that hate into something that, well, thanks for your contribution there, pal.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's a really good note to end on there. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. That was really good talking to you.
I appreciate it. Cool. Thank you.
Wicked. Anyway.